to Arlington's Veterans Day observance. Now, there'll be various times during the ceremony today. A lawyer and a prosecutor. Judge Carr served in the United States Marine Corps, achieving the rank of Major. We'll hear more from Judge Carr and the Cowtown Music Club later in the program. We begin promptly at 11 o'clock because the armistice ending the fighting of World War I was signed by the United States and its allies in 1918 at the 11th hour of the 11th day of the 11th month. So we always begin promptly at 11. In 1954, Armistice Day was changed to Veterans Day to honor all military veterans from all services for their service to our country. Therefore, we begin promptly. And now, ladies and gentlemen, we begin our ceremony as always with the presentation of colors by the United States Marine Corps Color Guard, and they'll be joined by our allies, the Republic of Vietnam Color Guard, and a representative from the Republic of Korea. Ladies and gentlemen, please rise. Ladies and gentlemen, if you continue to stand for a moment while Colonel Jim Quick will give our invocation and then lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Dr. Quick heads up the Goolsby Leadership Academy at UT Arlington College of Business. He's also past president of the Arlington Great Southwest Rotary Club.
Lord God Almighty, maker of heaven and earth, we come to you this Veterans Day, this Remembrance Day, with bowed heart and unbended knee, confessing our shortcomings. And yet we are thankful for your rich bounty poured out over this great land and for your saving grace. We live in gratitude for your love. We ask your blessing on all the heroes from America, South Vietnam, South Korea, and free men and women everywhere. Bind up the wounded, heal the brokenhearted, bless those who wear the Purple Heart. Let us remember those who have the ultimate sacrifice that we might live in peace. In your holy name we pray, amen. Amen. Please join me in the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Now, ladies and gentlemen, we'll hear our national anthem sung by the men's choral group of the New World United Methodist Church under the direction of Stephen Couch, Director of Music. Afterward, we will hear the national anthems of our Vietnamese and Korean allies.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still
công dân ơi, đứng lên đáp lời sông núi, đồng lòng cùng đi hy sinh cái gì thương xóm, vì tương lai của dân cùng sống và có tên, làm sao cho núi sông từ nay luôn vững bền, dù cho thầy phơi trên cương giáo, thổ nước lấy máu đào đem bao, nòi sông lúc biên phái cần gian nguy, người công dân luôn vững bền tâm trí, hùng tráng quyết chiến đấu, làm cho khắp nơi vang tiếng người nước Nam cho đến muôn đời. Công dân ơi, mau hiến thân dưới cờ, công dân ơi, mau làm cho khói bờ thoát cần, tàn pha vé vàng nơi dòng xứng danh nghìn năm dòng dòng lạc hồng.
Ladies and gentlemen, please be seated. Ladies and gentlemen, let's please give our color guards and our singers a round of applause. Thank you all. Well, we're so honored today to have so many dignitaries here today. I'm going to just mention them briefly. Some of them will have speaking parts in our program a little later. And because we have so many and because we want each one's name to be heard, I'd ask you to hold your applause until we've finished reading each name. We have a number of members from the Arlington City Council here today who preside over this park and all the other things that Arlington does. And I want to begin by introducing City Councilman, District 1, Councilman Charlie Parker. Councilman Parker is a Navy veteran. He served as a Navy fighter pilot, and he's got a spot in the program a little later. I also want to introduce our Mayor Pro Tem, Councilwoman Sherry Capehart from District 2, and Councilman Robert Rivera, District 3. Also, Catherine Wildman, District 4. Now, we are in District 4, and this park is in her district. And also Robert Shepard, District 6, and Councilwoman Victoria Farrar Myers, District 7, and Councilman Michael Glaspie, District 8. Now, Councilman Glaspie served in the United States Army, and he is a Vietnam War veteran. So let's give all of our council members from Arlington a round of applause. We're also honored to have Congressman Joe Barton, and he's going to speak with us just a little bit later. County Judge Glenn Whitley is with us today, and he also has a part in the program, as does State Senator District 10, Connie Burton. She's here. State Representative Chris Turner is here. He represents District 101, and he has a part in the program later too. Now, I noticed out in the audience, I saw County Commissioner Precinct 2, Andy Wynn. Where is Andy Wynn? And sitting next to him is Aaron Rice, who's on the Arlington School Board. So would you give all of these men and women a round of applause? I feel like I've left somebody out, and if I have, I probably have, I usually do. If you would come over here and under the tent, find Susie and give her your name, and I'll be sure that we mention your name before the program is over today. I've already mentioned Judge Brent Carr, but I just want to let you know that he's one of the most respected jurists in Tarrant County. He's received many awards, including the prestigious Silver Gavel Award, Silver Gavel, easy for me. To give you an idea of the respect with which he's held, I think this is true. If it's not, he'll correct me. I think he was appointed by Bill Clements, Governor Bill Clements, and he's never had an opponent in all these years because the legal community respects him so much. Did I tell the truth, Judge? Well, it was close, I heard him say. Well, next, Mayor Jeff Williams planned to be here, but he was called out of town suddenly, and so we're very honored to have Councilman Charlie Parker speak on the mayor's behalf today. Councilman Parker, as I mentioned, is a Navy veteran, served as a fighter pilot. So, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Councilman Charlie Parker.
Thank you so much. It's an honor for me to stand in for the mayor. He's in Washington right now. If I were him, I would probably still be doing victory laps around Arlington because of Tuesday's election. But it is an honor for me to stand out in front of you, an illustrious crowd, and to stand out in front of the heroes of South Vietnam and point out what true heroes we have and the essence that makes up the defense of this country. Now, I want to ask you, I'm going to read a proclamation here in just a second, but you know, I kind of look out over this sea of humanity and find out and ask the question, how did it all start? And it all started it started with a guy in a room with a flag and a Bible, and you raised your hand and you swore, I, Charlie Parker, do solemnly swear and attest to support and defend the Constitution of the United States against all enemies, foreign and domestic. And when you did that, you said, I am all in. I am the insurance policy for the people of the United States, and whatever it takes for me to do the business at hand, I will do it. Whatever it takes. And then you sealed the deal right at the bottom when you said, so help me God. Okay? My lands, I have sworn to my Maker that I will defend every person in the United States to the best of my ability. That's remarkable. That's a remarkable statement, and it lasts for your entire tour of duty. We have right now, I can see a lot of gray hair out there just like mine, or no hair or whatever, but we have right now those people that served in the past, but what we have is the best of us standing watches in Fallujah, Afghanistan, over a nightmare range in Korea. We have all of those individuals, and they are the best of us now, and they took the same oath. Thank you, man. And right now, it's 9:30 in Afghanistan. They're going to stand those watches all night long, and they're going to be there for you. So I can say truly, thank you for your service. It was an honor for me to serve my country in the time that I was in the armed forces, and thank you so very much for what you have done. And I will go ahead and read a proclamation from Mayor Williams, if I might. It says, whereas Veterans Day has its origins in November 11th, 1918 armistice, which brought World War I to a conclusion, and whereas the Allied victory of World War I affirmed the strength of great nations acting together for high purpose, and whereas the people of the United States caused through their elected representatives the designating of November 11th as a federal legal holiday, which in 1954 became officially known thereafter as Veterans Day. And whereas Veterans Day continues to be celebrated and commemorated with solemn observances in honor of all Americans who have served their country in times of war and conflict. Whereas Veterans Day has become a significant part of our American heritage as we recognize the millions of citizens whose military service has had a profound effect on history, and whereas the courage, honor, sacrifice, and dedication which veterans of the United States Armed Forces have displayed in the cause of justice, freedom, and democracy are most worthy of recognition. Now, therefore, I, W. Jeff Williams, Mayor of the City of Arlington, Texas, and on behalf of the Arlington City Council, do hereby proclaim November 11th, 2016 as Veterans Day. Thank you so very, very much. One more? Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Parker.
If tomorrow all the things were gone I'd worked for all my life, and I had to start again with just my children and my wife, I'd thank my lucky stars to be living here today, 'cause our flag still stands for freedom and they can't take that away. I'm proud to be an American, where at least I know I'm free, and I won't forget the ones who died, they gave that right to me, and I'll gladly stand up next to you and defend us through today, 'cause there ain't no doubt I love this land. God bless the USA. From the lakes of Minnesota to the hills of Tennessee, across the plains of Texas, from the sea to shining sea, from Detroit down to Houston, from New York to LA, there's pride in every American heart. It's time we stand and say, I'm proud to be an American, where at least I know I'm free, and I won't forget the ones who died to give that right to me, and I'll gladly stand up next to you and defend us till today, 'cause there ain't no doubt I love this land. God bless the USA. I'm proud to be an American, where at least I know I'm free, and I won't forget the ones who died, who gave that right to me, and I'll gladly stand up next to you and defend us till today, 'cause there ain't no doubt I love this land. God bless the USA. God bless the USA.
Please be seated. On your agenda, it shows that Albert Ross is going to give a Veterans Park Memorial Project update, and he's deferred that time to me, so I will take the opportunity to tell you how important Mr. Ross has been to this memorial. Everything that you see here, it all began with the Great Southwest Rotary Club and Lieutenant Colonel Jim Persons, who lived nearby and noticed that there was no flagpole in this park. And so he set about to do that, set about to correct that error. And Albert Ross has played a large role in this project too. And he has told me that he has led a contract for the forms within which we will place additional bricks. You see the bricks here that are dedicated to individual servicemen and women. So if you'd like to purchase one of these for yourself or for a family member, they're members of the Great Southwest Rotary Club over here in the tent, and they'll take your name and your money and make sure it gets done. And I mentioned that Lieutenant Colonel Jim Persons, United States Marine Corps, deceased now, was instrumental in getting all of this started. And I just want to let you know that his widow, Miss Sherry Persons, is here with us today. Could you show her our appreciation? Thank you, Sherry. Well, gosh, I read in the paper the other day that it was that Congressman Barton is about to serve his 17th term. I remember meeting him shortly after he was elected in 1984. He served the 6th District of Texas since he was sworn in 1985. In 2004, his colleagues selected him to chair the House Committee on Energy and Commerce, and as you all know, that's very important in the state of Texas. Today, he's the chairman emeritus of that committee, and I read also that he's going to seek the chairmanship of that again, so I hope him good luck in that. Ladies and gentlemen, please give a warm welcome to Congressman Joe Barton.
Thank you, Cleet, and I am sincerely honored and flattered to be a part of this program. No one has mentioned it yet, so I will be the first, but the reason that we're here today at this time is because way back in 1918, in World War I, on the 11th day of the 11th month at the 11th hour, we had the ceasefire and armistice declared that ended World War I. That was 98 years ago. And we have begun to celebrate what we now call Veterans Day, first to honor the veterans of World War I, and as time has progressed, World War I, World War II, Korea, Vietnam, Iraq, Afghanistan, etc., etc. I have never served in the military. I volunteered for the reserves during the Vietnam War. Failed the physical. I had broken my leg playing football in high school, and my family has a history of hypertension, and so they didn't like the fact that I had a left leg that had been broken and that my blood pressure the day I took the physical was about 180 over 110. They thought that was not too good. Now, maybe it's because I was scared about taking the physical, I don't know. In any event, I don't stand here as a veteran like Mr. Parker, who served as an aviator in the Navy. But I do stand here as a strong supporter of the military. I want to honor our veterans. Both my grandfathers served in World War I. My father served in World War II. I gave a talk 2 days ago, or 3 days ago, at Newman International Academy over on Fielder in Arlington, and I was asked to speak about patriotism. And I told the students, a patriot is an individual who is willing to sacrifice his or her self-interest in order to protect the interest of others, is willing to sacrifice. We don't want our veterans, our active duty military, and those of you that have served and are sitting here today, it is not a prerequisite that you give your life to defend your country, but it is a requirement that you be willing to. And everyone here today that is a veteran was willing to make that sacrifice. That is why we're here, quite frankly. To our Korean veterans, I have stood at the DMZ. I have looked eyeball to eyeball with the Korean communist on the other side of the dividing line as they looked at me, wondering who the heck I was. How did I get there? And I felt very comfortable because standing beside me were United States Army and United States Air Force military, and there is no fence. You know, at the DMZ, if you want to walk into North Korea, go for it, and if they wanted to walk into South Korea, they could do it. But that dividing line is as alive today as it was in the 1950s. So for those of you that served in Korea, God bless you. You defended freedom in the early 1950s against the Chinese and the North Koreans. The Vietnam War, and we have a number of veterans here from Vietnam. That's, for lack of a better term, that's my war. One of my very best friends in high school was a young man named Roy McClellan. His father worked for my grandfather and my uncle, and Roy and I worked together in my uncle's store in Spiegelville, Texas, a little country store and bait house, gas station, for 2 summers. I went to Texas A&M, and he went to McLennan County Junior College, but he dropped out of school and he joined the United States Army and was shipped to Vietnam. And the middle of my sophomore year, when I was home one weekend, I went out to the Spiegelville store to see my uncle and aunt and grandmother, and I saw a posting right by the counter in the store that Roy had been killed in Vietnam. He stepped on a landmine. It had been booby-trapped, and he was killed. If you go to Washington and go to the Vietnam Memorial, you can look his name up. He gave his life so that I can stand here today. So for those of you that served in Vietnam, God bless you, and thank you for defending us. Of course, these later wars, the war to liberate Kuwait, the invasion of Iraq, the defense against the Taliban in Afghanistan, the war against ISIS. Some of you served in those wars, and there are many from Arlington and Tarrant County that are not here today that are serving us right now. There are bad people in the world, and there are bad countries in the world. And we need to be as vigilant today as we were World War II, Korea, Vietnam. So God bless everybody that's defending our great nation as we stand here today. It's an all-volunteer force. We don't have the draft anymore. Every man and woman that defends this country does so because they voluntarily choose to do so. And that is a tribute to them, but also to their families, and there are many of you, or some of you, that have family members doing that today. So I am honored to be here, and I pledge that I will do my share as your congressman to maintain our military, to give them the best equipment, the best training, and unequivocal support as they defend our nation around the world. Before I sit down, I want to take personal privilege to talk on another subject just briefly. 3 nights ago, or Tuesday during the day, our nation decided on a new president. This is not the time to give you a political speech, but I pledge to you as your congressman that we are going to do everything possible to deliver on on the promises that our new president-elect has made, and that's going to start Monday when I go back to Washington, D.C. We are going to make America great again. God bless you.
Thank you, Congressman Barton. I always overlook somebody, and my wife has given me a card here that Matt Hayes is in the audience, Justice of the Peace. Matt, I think, was a captain in the Marine Corps, if I remember right. Is that right, Matt? Thank you for being here. I also see, I think, is it Assistant City Manager or Deputy City Manager Jim Barajon's here. Thanks for being here, Jim. And by the way, we've gotten tremendous support from all the city departments, the Parks Department, the Police Department, the Fire Department. We've got a real police presence here today. We really appreciate all that the city has done. The new parking lot, all these things make it much better for all of us to have this ceremony each year. So thank you so much for that. Tarrant County Judge Glenn Whitley presides over the Tarrant County Commissioners Court, and he served as county judge for 10 years. He was a county commissioner for 10 years before that. He is a graduate of the University of Texas at Arlington, and just last night he was recognized as a distinguished alumnus by the university. He also is a veteran. He served the United States Naval Reserve. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Judge Glenn Whitley.
It really is a privilege to be here today. I can't think of a better end to this week than to be here to celebrate those who have allowed this week to continue. Without the sacrifices of our veterans, both those here today and those in the past, we would not have had the right, or still had the right, to be able to go out and to vote, to express our opinions, and to be a part of what will be a smooth transition, just as all of the transitions in the past have been. So I really want to take this opportunity to thank everyone here who has given service to this great country. And let's again recognize everyone as they've done that. I would, however, like to ask for a little special attention. I would like to ask for all of those veterans of the Vietnam War to please rise at this time. Oftentimes, as I go into an organization or as I have an opportunity to make a speech, what I say is I want to recognize everybody for their service. But these men and women that are standing here, when they came home, all of the folks that are seated, or many of the folks that are seated, when they came home to a hero's welcome. When these folks came home, they came home and got caught in a political battle. And certainly, in many instances, were not treated as the heroes that they were. They answered the call of their country. They went over, many of them were wounded physically, mentally. They came home and they were ridiculed. And for that was a disgrace. And so I especially want to thank you today and every day for the service that you gave to our country and for everything that you've done, and apologize for the way that you may have been treated when you came home. So again, let's give them a special round of applause. One of my partners on the Commissioner's Court is Commissioner Andy Wynn. This morning, Andy and I have already been at a couple of events, and we'll be at a couple of more, I'm sure, before the day's over with. But during this first event, Commissioner Wynn told his story, and I feel like it's very appropriate and would ask Commissioner Wynn to come forward at this time for you to hear the story of one who was directly impacted by the Vietnam War. And so at this time, I really want to ask Commissioner Wynn, we passed a proclamation earlier this week that had a bunch of whereases and a now and therefore. But I think it's more important to hear Commissioner Wynn and his story than for you to hear us recite a bunch of whereases and therefores. So Commissioner Wynn, thank you very much, and I'm privileged to have you serving with me on the Commissioner's Court.
Likewise, sir. Thank you, Judge. As you tend to deviate from the official program, I apologize for that. I want to take a quick opportunity to thank all veterans and their families, and especially those who served in Vietnam, including the United States veterans as well as the Republic of Vietnam veterans. In America, what is so special about this wonderful country is we pay very special tribute and appreciation to the sacrifices of our veterans and their families. This morning, I want to quickly share with you my utmost appreciation for all veterans, especially those who served in Vietnam. I didn't come to this country until I was 14 years old. And many of you, I know, have sacrificed greatly. I met a lady whose father is still missing in action over Laos in 1972. And many of you are Gold and Blue Star families. You lost your sons, your uncles, your fathers, your daughters. I still have my family, all my siblings, both of my parents. And I don't want to speak on behalf of all Vietnamese Americans, but I know many Vietnamese Americans, the majority of the Vietnamese Americans are very appreciative of the sacrifices of all veterans, Vietnam and American alike. We wouldn't be here without you. In 1968, when the communists launched an all-out attack, I was only 2 years old. And it took a lot of deaths and fatalities for the Republic of Vietnam and the United States military to push the North Vietnamese communists back. I believe we suffered the greatest casualties during the Tet Offensive of 1968. Because of those sacrifices, I was able to grow a little bit older until 1972. When the communists launched another all-out attack in what is known as a Thanksgiving Offensive, many Vietnamese as well as American military suffered death and injuries during that great battle. But because of your sacrifice, I was able to grow up a little bit older until 1975, when the American military men and women left Vietnam, and the South Vietnamese military men and women stood alone against an almighty communist forces, including Soviet Union, China, Cuba. They did all they could to defend their freedom in 1975. They had tank, but no shells. They had M16, but no ammunition. They had jeeps, but no fuel. Ultimately, we lost that battle that we call Vietnam. And I want to quickly thank all the Vietnamese veterans for your sacrifices. I know many of you suffer imprisonment, 5, 10, 20, 30, 35 years. And I know many of you chose death over surrendering and imprisonment. I'm here today with my family, being who I am today, because of your sacrifice. It is not a theory. It is not hearsay. It is factual. I would not have my family, my freedom, and being able to be a county commissioner without your sacrifices. And I'm talking about the sacrifices of all veterans and their families. On behalf of myself and my family, I sincerely thank you, and I'm very grateful for what you have done for me and my family. All I can tell you is I commit myself to public service. I'm not perfect. I made many mistakes in the past, and I believe I will continue to make many more mistakes. I promise you I will do everything I can to deserve and to be worthy of your sacrifices. Thank you for having me, and thank you, County Judge, for giving me the opportunity to talk.
Thank you, Commissioner Wynn. Connie Burton represents the Texas State Senate District 10. She was elected in 2014. In just her first year, she was appointed to the all-important Senate Committee on Veterans Affairs and Military Installations. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome State Senator Connie Burton.
Thank y'all very much. It's an honor to be here in front of you. I'll be quick. I want to tell you that I love freedom. I love freedom. I love our country because of the freedom it affords us. We live in the best country in the world. I think we live in the best state in the best country in the world. And agreed. And I will tell you, one of the things that I think sometimes gets lost, I mean, you all have gone out and fought for our liberties, for our God-given liberties, for our freedom. And I will tell you that even though you go out and fight for it, sometimes those of us in government will infringe on it. And I will honor you. I will tell you that I will honor you as long as I'm in office, but not infringing on those rights that have been afforded us by God, nor infringe on the freedoms that you all have fought for us for so long. I will continue to fight for the freedom and liberties that have been given us and that you have been fighting for us as long as I'm in office, and that's how I'm going to honor you. I want to, again, reiterate what everybody else is saying. Thank you for what you've done. Thank your families for what you've done. We couldn't be where we are today without you, and I appreciate so much. And again, remember, I will always honor you by defending those freedoms that you have fought for us. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Senator Burton. Next is State Representative Chris Turner. Following his first legislative session, State Representative Chris Turner was recognized for his outstanding work on veterans issues. He was named Legislator of the Year by the Texas Veterans of Foreign Wars. He was Legislator of the Year by the Vietnam Veterans of America and by the Texas State Council and the Bipartisan Legislative Veterans Caucus's Freshman of the Year. He was also given a Leadership Award by the Texas Veterans Commission. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome State Representative Chris Turner.
Thank you. Good morning. It's a privilege to be here with you this morning on this beautiful day in Arlington, Texas, as we, one of the most special days of the year in our country, as we celebrate Veterans Day. You know, more than 24 million Americans have worn the uniform of our nation since the time of the Revolutionary War. And when I think about the people, the men and the women who have served our nation over these 200 plus years in our armed forces, I think that some were poor, some were rich, some were in between. They were all different races and ethnic backgrounds, all different religious faiths. They truly represented the great fabric of diversity in this country and the melting pot that this country is. But they all shared common traits of heroism, of bravery, of selflessness. And essentially, coming from all over this country, whether it's from rural areas and coming off farms in World War II to go fight the Nazis, or whether it's coming from the big cities on either coast or right here in Arlington, Texas. These were men and women who weren't seeking to be heroes, weren't seeking to do anything extraordinary, but they were simply common people who ended up showing uncommon valor and uncommon bravery. And for that, we owe a debt of gratitude that we cannot ever repay. And I think that's one of the most important things I always try to remember on Veterans Day, this day that we celebrate all of you who have served. That whatever we do in this program, whatever parades we have, whatever other special events we have, we can't ever properly thank you. And we certainly can never fully ever repay you for your sacrifice. We also need to recognize today and every day the sacrifice of our veterans' families. And even though family members may not have put on a uniform themselves, they too have sacrificed. The constant fear and worry that comes with having a loved one deployed, the special moments in a child's life that are missed by that parent who's overseas, and the understandable apprehension a spouse would feel at a late night knock on the door or a late night phone call. Our family members, veterans and service members have sacrificed more than most of us can ever understand. So it's my hope on this Veterans Day, as we honor those sacrifices, that we'll always remember the wise words of our nation's first president, George Washington. He said, "The willingness with which our young people are likely to serve in any war, no matter how justified, shall be directly proportional to how they perceive the veterans of earlier wars were appreciated and treated by their nation." And so let us always appreciate and treat our veterans with the utmost respect that they have earned through their service. Thank you very much.
Colonel Jim Quick is going to introduce our keynote speaker, and while he's making his way here, I want to pay special recognition to the Arlington Great Southwest Rotary Club. I see many of their members here. If you're one of those members of that club, would you raise your hand? Let us see you. I'd like the crowd here to give you their appreciation for all the work you've done to create this ceremony and also these memorials here. So thank you very much. And a past president of that club is Colonel Jim Quick, who's going to introduce our keynote speaker.
Thank you, Cleet. Captain Jamie Peace is a 2001 graduate of the U.S. Naval Academy and a U.S. Marine Combat Infantry veteran with service from 2001 to 2010. Captain Peace was a rifle platoon commander and company executive officer with the 1st Battalion, 1st Marines, deploying to Dubai, Sri Lanka, and Kenya, and extended combat operations in Iraq. Captain Peace then joined 2nd Reconnaissance Battalion, deploying to the Philippines, Indonesia, and Korea as the Deep Reconnaissance Platoon Commander for the 31st Marine Expeditionary Unit. In 2007, Captain Peace joined 1st Raider Battalion as a Marine Special Operations Team Commander, where he deployed to Afghanistan. He analyzed, planned, and commanded over 35 special operations missions. Peace received an MBA in finance from the Wharton School, University of Pennsylvania. He currently lives in Fort Worth with his wife, Barbara, and is the U.S. Operations Manager for Fracturing, FTS International, the world's 3rd largest provider of well stimulation services. Please welcome Captain Peace.
Well, good morning, everyone. First, I'd like to say what an honor it is for me to be able to speak to this distinguished group on this Veterans Day. I'd like to say thank you to my family and friends that have supported me through numerous deployments and my transition as a veteran. And a very special thank you to my beautiful wife, Barbara, who's in the back, for all of her love and support. Next, I'd like to say the support that Arlington, Texas is showing today is demonstrative of the tremendous support our veterans receive every day, especially in the great state of Texas. And for that, for myself, and on behalf of every veteran out there, thank you. The public speaking circuit has not been part of my post-active duty aspirations, certainly not in a format like today. So when Jim Runsheimer asked me if I would be today's guest speaker, I was more than a little surprised, but like any good Marine, I'm not one to back away from a challenge. So of course I said yes. I said yes with absolutely zero regard for what was actually going to be required of me, which is likely another trait of a good Marine. Jim's guidance to me was that he thought it important that people hear from someone that is part of the most recent generation of veterans. This generation of veterans now spans 2 American generations, both Generation X and the Millennials. For our armed forces have been fighting the global war on terror for 15 years, seemingly with no end in sight. One of the things I find most remarkable and encouraging about today is the inclusion of veterans from around the world, not just American soldiers, sailors, airmen, and Marines, but those members of the militaries of our allies as well. Today, as you look around, you see the color guards of both Vietnamese and South Korean militaries. During my deployments, I had the privilege to serve alongside British, French, German, Canadian, Australian, Kenyan, Iraqi, Afghan, South Korean, and Filipino service members. And the common bond that all of us U.S. veterans share, regardless of which nation's uniform we don, is that we are all part of something greater than ourselves, working towards a common cause, a cause so great that we are willing to make the ultimate sacrifice. So in that vein, I'm proud to tell a story today about a different kind of veteran, not a traditional American veteran, but one equally deserving of our respect and admiration. This veteran is a young Afghan man who fought alongside of me and my team for 9 months in Afghanistan. His name is Razul, and he was the lead interpreter for our team, Dagger 4-2. In 2008, Razul was somewhere between 19 and 22 years of age. You see, he always changed his answer depending on who was asking, and we never could seem to nail it down. When I first met Razul, I was blown away by his perfect English and his eager smile and energy. He was eager to work with the Marines again after a short stint with one of our sister services. We took care of Razul and he took care of us. He was absolutely instrumental to our daily success, for without him, I might as well have been negotiating with one of those trees in the back. Over the first 2 months of our deployment, the more we got to know Razul, the more we grew to trust and depend on him. There wasn't anything he couldn't seem to get his hands on. We asked him to get us an Afghan fighting hound as a team mascot, and with $20 and a smile, we had a new puppy named Hesco. Pushing the limits of his talents, we sent him on a liquor run. Of course, this is forbidden by the US military and in Afghanistan. But he showed up nonetheless with a bottle of Iranian moonshine that he called tractor fuel, which is about what it tasted like. Like any teammate you spend most of your waking hours with, we learned everything about Razul. I'm not sure if he was westernizing himself or we were rubbing off on him, but his commitment to our team, his adoration of America, and his commitment to his family and country were inspiring. Eventually, he seemed to prefer wearing Marine uniforms to his traditional Afghan clothing, and he continued to weave himself closer to us every day. One of the things Razul most enjoyed was learning how to work out and lift weights like an American. His quintessential line was, "I want to be big and ripped like John Cena," who many Americans know for his World Wrestling Entertainment fame. As far as Razul was concerned, John Cena was the greatest action movie star on the planet, which of course we found most amusing. One day I asked Razul why he was doing this, why work with the Americans? He was a young Afghan man who had attended university. He didn't have to be here with us, risking his life and potentially that of his family should the Taliban find out what he was doing. Razul said, "I do it for my family. I do it to send my brothers and sisters to school." Razul was the eldest of his family and had been fortunate to go on to university. But his siblings would not be as fortunate as he. It was humbling to hear this from a 21-year-old. How many American 21-year-olds would be so noble as to leave the relative security of home to run headlong into gunfire and IEDs with American Special Operations Forces, just to send his siblings to school? I'll never forget the day our team found out that we were being transferred from Delaram to the Nimroz province, to Forward Operating Base Robinson in the Helmand Valley. I was 2 months into our deployment, and at midnight our patrol the next day was canceled. We were to pack our gear and get to Fob Robinson. Fob Robinson is just outside of the city of Sangin in the Helmand province, and was notoriously one of the worst places for NATO forces in Afghanistan. The Army Special Forces team currently located there needed more support in order to be effective, and we drew the short straw to go work alongside of them. Our team immediately went to work making preparations to be there in 3 days. The first day, one of the guys on the team tracked me down and let me know that Razul wouldn't pack his things, and he was saying he wasn't going with us. Not wanting to get distracted, my message was simple: pack his things for him and tell Razul he doesn't have a choice. Not exactly Captain Empathy, I know, but we didn't have time for bargaining. Several minutes later, Razul tracked me down with tears streaming down his face, saying he could not go to the Helmand. He had promised his family that Delaram was safe, and he would not be going to the Helmand or Uruzgan provinces. After what seemed like an inordinate amount of back and forth, I was able to appeal to his commitment to the team, our need for his help, and our promise to keep him safe. The spring in his step was gone, but he was at least moving in the right direction. Rasul proved time and again, while chasing bad guys around the Helmand Valley, that he was worth his weight in gold. We outfitted him with gear that looked like ours. We trained him how to shoot. And when the mission required, we armed him with a weapon. We'd make a Marine of him yet. One of the things we Americans seem to underappreciate in our interpreters is that the good ones weren't just there to translate for us. They were also our cultural guidance counselors. On more than one occasion, deep into a long operation when frustration and fatigue were setting in, my interactions with the locals would get a little stressed. When we weren't getting the response or help from the locals we wanted and needed, I'd make a sarcastic comment for Rasul to translate. He'd look at me and roll his eyes with a smirk and politely tell me, "I'm not going to say that. Quit being ridiculous, Jamie." I wouldn't put up much of a fight, and Rasul was right. Being an American smartass in the Helmand Valley wasn't going to help us at all. On one particular patrol, our team found several 10-pound bags of opium tar. So our natural inclination was to confiscate them. The bags belonged to a young boy and his mother. His father had been killed years before, and they were pleading with me not to take it. Both the boy and his mother were crying. She was nearly hysterical. But in our ignorance, we thought it right to get this opium off the street. Rasul was there with me. He pleaded that I give it back to them. It was their crop for the year. Those bags were as good, if not better, than hard currency, and they owed this opium to the Taliban. In our short-sightedness, we confiscated the opium, these bags of opium tar that weren't anything more than a cash crop that this boy and his mother had been extorted into growing for the Taliban. And we took it from them before the Taliban could collect it. We didn't make an ally that day. Worst case, we may have made an enemy. Rasul knew it, and we should have listened to him. I should have listened to him. We were Special Operations Forces. Our goal should have been to target caches of opium after the Taliban had consolidated them, not confiscate them from the farmers. It didn't take us long to realize our mistake, but we were frustrated. NATO had been in Afghanistan for 7 years, and there was no common knowledge on how to target the opium trade. Call it fog of war, call it the lack of a clear and common NATO strategy, but it didn't make it any easier to swallow. And it is a decision today that I still regret this day. If only I had listened to Rasul. With only 2 months left in our deployment, but 4 months into our time in the Helmand, Rasul's vacation days came due, and he wanted to go back to Kabul to visit his family. Of course, we would miss him, but we weren't going to stop him. However, there was an ongoing joke as to whether or not he would actually come back, as he still was not happy in the Helmand dealing with near daily Taliban attacks. But sure enough, 3 weeks later, my intel manager, who kept track of our interpreters, gets an email. Rasul's in Kandahar waiting on a helicopter to come back to Fob Rob. At that point, we knew he truly was one of us. He came back with gifts, a set of traditional Afghan clothing for me, and other keepsakes for the guys he was closest to. I asked Rasul what his family said when he told them he was working in the Helmand. He gave me the same eye roll and smirk he did every time I said something stupid. And he said, "I told them I'm working in Delaram and that's very safe. I didn't tell them anything about you trying to get me killed every week." When our deployment finally came to an end and we conducted our turnover, our team with Rasul made our way back to Delaram to link up with the rest of our company, where it was very safe. We had about a week of downtime to transition and get ready to move to Camp Bastion for our flight home. At this point, we had to introduce Rasul to his new team. Unfortunately, it was an Army ODA team, and Rasul was not happy. Quite frankly, he was furious. He said to me, "Jamie, I'm a Marine. I want to be with the Marines. I don't want to be with the Army." Not to disparage my sister's service, but I was quite proud of Rasul's commitment to the Marines. Sadly, there was nothing I could do, as the team that replaced us was an Army team, and there weren't any Marines for him to be assigned to. My last day in Delaram, I remember shaking Rasul's hand, thanking him and wishing him luck. He gave me a hard time about being with the new Army team, but they were getting on just fine, and I knew he would get over it. After all, at this point, he was a Marine for life. It would take us another 3 weeks to finally catch a flight out of Camp Bastion, back to California. It had been a long 9 months. When that plane finally left Afghanistan, I could safely say we were bringing every single one of us home. Dozens of patrols, 5 IED strikes, 2 of which I managed to hit personally in about 30 minutes on one bad day. We'd been in countless gunfights. Fob Robinson had been attacked by rockets, mortars, snipers, and small arms over 50 times in the 6 months we were its guests. And I could finally look down the row of seats on that wonderful C-17 and spread out all over the floor and ramp and strung up in hammocks and sleeping bags were all 24 of the Marines I arrived with. Dagger 4-2 was headed home. It was a proud and relieving moment. I don't know how, but we managed hardly a scratch. Not one of our brothers was missing. We returned to no grieving families. Only the relief and joy that the war, at least for now, was behind us. I arrived in California with little to return to. I'd asked my parents not to meet me. I don't know why, maybe I wasn't ready for that yet. I didn't have a car, nor a ride to the friend's house where I was going to crash for 2 nights until I moved into my new apartment. I got dropped off by a teammate and his wife. 2 days later, I picked up a new car and moved into an empty apartment with no furniture. The team had a barbecue on day 3 or 4, much to the annoyance of wives and girlfriends. We couldn't seem to stay away from one another. It just felt safe or normal or right, being close to those who had kept each other safe for months on end. We were all medicating heavily with tequila, whiskey, and beer, celebrating our return. As it seemed to dull the razor's edge we'd spent the last 2 years sharpening, even if just for an evening. I'd only been back in California for 5 days, struggling to adjust to my new normal, having traded body armor for board shorts, when I got a call from one of the guys on the team. 3 members of our replacement ODA team and Razul had been killed in an IED strike to their Humvee in Delaram. It was a punch to the gut. I'm not sure if he even saw his 22nd birthday. Razul was the one who I was unable to bring home from that deployment. Dagger 4-2 had lost its first and only teammate. The United States and Afghanistan had lost a brother, a son, a Marine, and a patriot that day. So on this Veterans Day, I ask that you remember and thank not just the American veterans, but every veteran of our allies and every veteran, uniformed or not, who stepped forward to serve with the same willingness to sacrifice themselves for the good of us all and the liberty that we enjoy today. Thank you.
Well, thanks for those moving words, Captain Peace. And I want to, I heard in